Hello everyone! I am Johnny Sapolinari Kisay and today we will gonna tackle about the story of Tuesday Siesta by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Are you ready to learn with me? If that's so, let's have fun, let's learn and explore together. Tuesday Siesta by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, translated by J.S. Bernstein. So these are some difficult words that we will be encountered along with our discussion, so be mindful of these words. Interminable, lasting or seeming to last forever or endless. Mourning, the expression of deep sorrow for someone who was dead. Serenity, calmness or peacefulness. Scrutinize, to look at closely. Inscrutable, mysterious, skeptical, having or showing doubt. So these are some difficult words. The train emerged from the quivering tunnel of the Saturday rocks, began to cross the insurmountable banana plantations. And the air became humid, and they couldn't feel the sea breeze anymore. A stifling blast of smoke came in the car window. On the narrow road, parallel to the railway, there were outskirts loaded with green bunches of bananas. Beyond the road, in uncultivated spaces, set at odd intervals, there were offices with electric farms, red brick buildings, and residences with chairs and little white tables and the terraces among dusty palm trees and rose bushes. It was 11 in the morning, and the heat had not yet begun. "You'd better close the window," the woman said. "Your hair will get full of soot." The girl tried to, but the shade wouldn't move because of the rust. They were the only passengers in the lone third-class car. Since the smoke of the locomotive kept coming through the window, the girl left her seat and put down the only things they had with them. A plastic sack with some things to eat and a bouquet of flowers wrapped in a newspaper. She sat in the opposite seat, away from the window, facing her mother. They were both in severe and poor boarding clothes. So in this sentence, you'd better close the window. Your hair will get full of soot. So, what choices has the woman made in making this journey? She has chosen to arrive during siesta when people in town will be sleeping. She has chosen to visit her son's grave in spite of the scorn she might face. In this sentence, they were both in severe and poor mourning clothes. What does this passage suggest about the character's economic and emotional situation? How might these details reveal the author's implied theme? So, the mother and the daughter wear severe and poor mourning clothes, and this is the girl's first shrine raid. These details suggest that they have a little money and are in mourning. The theme will concern poverty and loss. To continue, the girl was 12 years old, and it was the first time she'd ever been on a train. The woman seemed too old to be her mother because of the blue veins on her eyelids and her small, soft and shapeless body, in a dress cut like a cassock. She was riding with her spinal column braced firmly against the back of the seat, and held a peeling patent leather handbag in her lap with both hands. She bore the consciousness, serenity of someone accustomed to poverty. By 12, the heat had begun. The train stopped for 10 minutes to take on water at a station where there was no town. Outside, in the mysterious silence of the plantations, the shadows seemed clean, but the still air inside the car smelled like untamed leather. The train did not pick up speed. It stopped at two identical towns with wooden houses painted bright colors. The woman's head nodded and she sank into sleep. The girl took off her shoes. Then she went to the washroom to put the bouquet of flowers in some waters. When she backed to her seat, her mother was waiting to eat. She gave her a piece of cheese, half a cornmeal pancake, and a cookie, and took an equal portion out of the plastic sack for herself. While they ate, the train crossed an iron bridge very slowly and passed a town just like the ones before. Except that in this one, there was a crowd in the plaza. A band was playing a lively tune under the oppressive sun. On the other side of the town, the plantation ended in a plain which was cropped from the drought. The woman stopped eating. "Put on your shoes," she said. The girl looking outside, she saw nothing but the deserted plain, where the train began to pick up speed again. But she put the last piece of cookie into the sack and quickly put on her shoes. The woman gave her a comb. "Comb your hair," she said. The train whistle began to blow while the girl was combing her hair. The woman tried to sweat from her neck and wiped the oil from her face with her fingers. When the girl stopped combing, the train was passing the outlying houses of the town, larger but sadder than earlier ones. "If you feel like doing anything, do it now," said the woman. "Later, don't take a drink anywhere, even if you're dying of thirst. Above all, no crying." The girl nodded her head. A dry, burning wind came into the window, together with the locomotive whistle and the clatter of the old cars. The woman folded the plastic bag with the rest of the food and put it in the handbag. For a moment, a complete picture of the town, on the bright August Tuesday, shone in the window. The girl wrapped the flowers in a soaking wet newspaper, moved a little farther away from the window, and stared at her mother. She received a pleasant expression in return. The train began to whistle and slow down. A moment later, it stopped.
In this sentence, what do the mother's words and tone to her daughter suggest about their situation? So, the mother's instructions suggest that they chooses to be self-sufficient, to show others that she and her daughter can take care of themselves and do not want pity. So, this is the interpretation about this sentence.
There was no one at the station on the other side of the street, on the sidewalk shaded by the almond trees. Only the pool hall was open. The town was floating in the heat. The woman and the girl got off the train and crossed the abandoned station. The tiles split apart by the grass growing up between and over to the shady side of the street. It was almost 2. At that hour, weighted down by drowsiness, the town was taking a siesta. The stores, the town offices, the public school were closed at 11 and didn't reopen until a little before 4. When the train went by, only the hotel across from the station, with its bar and pool hall, and the telegraph office at one side of the plaza stayed open. The houses, most of them built on a banana company's model, had their doors locked from inside and their blinds drawn. In some of them, it was so hot that the residents ate lunch in the pantry. Others leaned a chair against the wall, in the shade of the almond trees, and took their siesta right on the street. Keeping to the protective shade of the almond trees, the woman and the girl entered the town without disturbing the siesta.
In this sentence, do you think the mother chooses to arrive when most people are inside? Yes, she comes from that region and knows the costumes. She most likely did want to draw attention to their visit. To continue,
They went directly to the parish house. The woman scratched the metal grating on the door with her fingernail, waited a moment and scratched again. An electric fan was humming inside. They did not hear the steps. They hardly heard the slight creaking of a door, and immediately Acacia's voice rang next to the metal grating. "Who is it?" The woman tried to see through the grating. "I need a priest," she said. "He's sleeping now." It's an emergency, the woman insisted, her voice showing a calm determination.
In this sentence, why does the woman use that tone of voice? Why does the woman say that it is an emergency? So she is determined to get her away. She says it is an emergency because no other response would motivate the priest to see her right away. To continue,
The door was opened a little way, noiselessly, and a plump, older woman appeared, with very pale skin and hair the color of iron. Her eyes seemed too small behind her thick eyeglasses. "Come in," she said, and opened the door all the way. They entered a room, permitted with an old smell of flowers. The woman of the house led them to a wooden bench and signaled them to sit down. The girl did so, but her mother remained standing, absent-mindedly, with both hands clutching the handbag. No noise could be heard above the electric fan. The woman of the house reappeared at the door at the far of the room. "He says you should come back after 3, she said in a very low voice. "He just laid down 5 minutes ago." "The train leaves at 3:30, said the woman. It was a brief and self-assured reply, but her voice remained pleasant, full of undertones. The woman of the house smiled for the first time. "All right," she said. When the far door closed again, the woman sat down next to her daughter. The narrow waiting room was poor, neat and clean. On the other side of the wooden railing which divided the room, there was a work table, a plain one with an oilcloth cover, and on the top of the table a primitive typewriter next to a vase of flowers. The parish records were beyond. You could see that it was an office kept in order by a spinster. The far door opened, and this time the priest appeared, cleaning his glasses with a handkerchief. Only when he put them on was it evident that he was the brother of the woman who had opened the door. "How can I help you?" he asked. "The case to the cemetery," said the woman. The girl was seated with the flowers in her lap and her feet crossed under the bench. The priest looked at her, then looked at the woman, and then through the wire mesh of the window at the bright, cloudless sky. "In this heat," he said, "you could have waited until the sun went down." The woman moved her head silently. The priest crossed to the other side of the railing, took out of the cabinet notebook covered in oilcloth, wooden pen holder, and inkwell, and sat down at the table. There was more than enough hair on his hands to account for what missing on his head. "Which grave are you going to visit?" he asked. "Carlos Centino's," said the woman. "Who?" "Carlos Centino," the woman repeated. The priest still did not understand. "He's the thief who was killed here last week," said the woman with the same tone of voice. "I am his mother." The priest scrutinized her. She stared at him with quiet self-control, and the father blushed.
in this sentence, why does the priest blush after finding out that he is talking with the thief's mother? So the priest blushes because the thief's mother shows no shame, whereas the priest seems ashamed of the town's response to the death of the woman's son. To continue,
He lowered his head and began to write. As he filled the page, he asked the woman to identify herself, and she replied unhesitatingly, with precise details, as if she were reading them. The father began to sweat. The girl unhooked the buckle of her left shoe, slipped her heel out of it, and rested in a bench rail. She did the same with the right one. It had all started the Monday of the previous week, at 3 in the morning. A few blocks from there, Rebecca, a lonely widow who lived in a house full of odds and ends, heard about the sound of drizzling rain, something trying to force the front door from outside. She got up, rummaged around her closet for an ancient revolver that no one had heard since the day of Colonel Aureliano Bonilla, and went into the living room without turning on the lights, orienting herself not so much by the noise of the lamp as by a terror developed in her by 28 years of loneliness. She fixed in her imagination not only the spot where the door was, but also the exact height of the lock. She clutched the weapon with both hands, closed her eyes, and squeezed the trigger. It was the first time in her life that she had fired a gun. Immediately after the explosion, she couldn't hear except the murmur of the drizzle on the convenance roof. Then she heard a little metallic bump on the cement porch, and a very low voice, pleasant but terrible, exulted. Ah, mother! The woman they found dead in the front of the house in the morning, his nose blown to bits, wore a flannel shirt with colored stripes, everyday pants with a rope for a belt, and was barefoot. No one in the town knew him.
In this sentence, what might this detail say about the thief's motive? What might his motive say about the theme? So, the thief's simple clothes on bare feet suggests that he was a poor man. He was probably a hungry man, not a hunted criminal. Why does Garcia Marquez mention that nobody in town know Carlos? So, to emphasize Carlos' unimportance in the town, which was the reason for the lack of acknowledging in his death. To continue,
So his name was Carlos Centino, murmured the father when he finished writing. Centeno Ayala, said the woman. He was my only boy. The priest went back to the cabinet. Two big rusty keys hung on the inside of the door. The girl imagined, as her mother had when she was a girl, and as the priest himself must have imagined at some time, that they were St. Peter's keys. He took them down, put them on an open notebook on a railing, and pointed with his forefinger to a place on a page he had just written, looking to the woman. Sign here. The woman scrambled her name, holding the handbag under her arm. The girl picked up the flowers, came to the railing, shuffling her feet, and watched her mother attentively. The priest sighed. Did you ever try to get him on the right track? The woman answered when she finished signing. He was a very good man. The priest looked at first at the woman and then at the girl, and realized with a kind of posed amazement that they were not about to cry. The woman continued in the same tone. I told him never to steal anything that anyone needed to eat, and he minded me. On the other hand, before, when he used the baths, he used to spend 3 days in bed, exhausted from being punched. All his teeth had to be pulled out, interrupted the girl. That's right, the woman agreed. Every mouthful I ate those days tasted of the beatings my son got on Saturday nights. God's will is inscrutable, said the father, but he said it without much conviction. Partly because experience had made him a little skeptical and partly because of the heat. He suggested that they cover their heads to guard against sunstroke. Yawning and now almost completely asleep, he gave them instruction about how to find Carlos Centino's grave. When they come back, they didn't have to knock. They should put the key under the door, and in the same place, if they could, they should put an offering for a church. The woman listened to his direction with great attention, but thanked him without smiling. The father had noticed that there was someone looking inside, his nose pressed against the metal grating. Even before he opened the door to the street, outside was a group of children. When the door was opened wide, the children scattered. Ordinarily, at that hour, there was no one in the street. Now, there were not only children, there were groups of people under the almond trees. The father scanned the street swimming in the heat, and then he understood Softly, he closed the door again. Wait a moment, he said without looking at the woman. His sister appeared at the far door with a black jacket over her nightshirt and her hair down over her shoulders. She looked silently at the father. What was it? He asked. The people have noticed, murmured his sister. You'd better go out by the door to the patio, said the father. It's the same there, said the sister. Everybody is at the windows. The woman seemed not to have understood until then. She tried to look up into the street through the middle grating. Then she took the bouquet of flowers from the girl and began to move toward the door. The girl followed her. Wait until the sun goes down, said the father. You'll melt, said his sister, motionless at the back of the room. Wait and I'll lend you a parasol. Thank you, replied the woman. We're all right this way. She took the girl by the hand and went into the street.
So, in this sentence, why might the mother have chosen not to accept the woman's parasol? So, other may say that the mother is not ashamed of her son, so she does not want to appear to be hiding. Or other may say she is a proud woman and does not want to take something from the woman and thereby be obligated to her. She may also be modeling behavior so that her daughter is not accept charity from others. The people in the painting seem to be mother and daughter. As in the story, they seem to be lonely and poor. So this is our discussion question number 1. For which character in the story do you feel the most sympathy? So you may say with the mother because she is going to mourn at her son's grave. Number 2, what feelings might the mother have chosen to hide from others? Do you think that hiding her feelings was an effective defense? So the character in the story feel like grief, shame, and anger. I think her feelings was an effective defense to help her preserve her dignity. Number 3, what theme or insight into life or human nature does the story express? Explain how the story details help to imply the theme. So a mother will honor the memory of her son regardless of the type of person he is. The mother makes a difficult journey to pay tribute to her son. Number 4, Carlos' mother refers to him as a thief but also tells the priest that he was a very good man. What might she mean by this? So she wants to convey that he was not just a common criminal. She taught him never to steal other people's food. Number 5, if this story took place today, what do you think would have happened when Carlos Centino was murdered? So answer will vary. Or some students may say that the police would have investigated the killing and tried to identify Carlos and his next of kin. Perhaps the widow would have been tried for killing Carlos. This is our reference. Thank you everyone for watching. I hope you learned a lot. Bye and God.